We will call to order the Town of Lake Lure Town Council regular meeting Tuesday, June 11th at 5 p.m. Commissioner Bryant,
ma'am.
if you could.
Please rise for
Lead
your
us.
invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Yes.
Father God, we thank you for the blessing of the warmth of the sun, coolness of the waters of this beautiful lake that you've given us, and the natural beauty that which you get to enjoy each and every day. Thank you for the generational commitment of the people who have made this place their home, both yesterday, today, and for the generations to come, and for the young youth leadership who are moving into their adulthood through our efforts to support them. We thank you for the opportunity to have them here to support our community in the years to come. Give us discernment this evening. Thank you for our collaboration, professionalism, and discernment. Thank you for this beautiful, natural place that we get to call home each and every day. Thank you for your grace, your love, blessings, and mercy. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Give a general idea of what it was before we start, pushing for that, we know. It's good.
That's a good idea.
Well, Mayor's communication, thank you all for coming, is what I have to say. The season is open. It's so nice to see people here again. The lake is up. We have people coming in, people having a good time in Lake Lure. Our families are here now, which is why I moved here. And, you know, that's part of the great part if you actually live here is having a gathering place for your families. But it's so good to see people coming in from the outside. And it's really good to see Lake Lure, you know, really starting to adapt and accommodate for the changes that are sometimes forced upon us. But I think we're doing it with grace and with a lot of discernment. So all in all, I think this year is starting out very well. We will move on then to the town manager's communications.
Could we?
I am so sorry.
That's okay, we're good.
I beg your pardon. So do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda
Madam Mayor, I
as
move that
posted?
we adopt the agenda as posted.
Madam Mayor, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the agenda stands unanimously adopted as posted. We'll move on then to the town manager's communications.
All right,
Ms.
thank you.
Stuman.
We have a couple of new faces from the town here tonight. Ms. Elba Willett she's behind the screen here, but that's our new town clerk, and we are very excited to have her. We also have two summer interns, I believe only one, oh, no, I see them both back there. Trey Blackwood and Megan Pitts. We have Trey for Town Hall. He's wanting to be a town manager. And then Megan Pitts is with the Planning and Development Department, and she's working on our GIS with both Community Development and Public Works. So we're very glad to have them as well. We have...
Welcome, yes.
So in the month of May, we completed our budget preparation, and you'll see on our agenda next is a public hearing for that. I want to thank Steve Ford and the Finance Department for their work. They have been great, and as well as the department heads. The drain valve installation project continues to move forward. There is some pretty large equipment down at the dam, and we do ask that you avoid boat traffic near the dam at this time to ensure safety of those working on site. The cell tower is still estimated to break ground in July. This is kind of moving into June, but we did open we didn't open. We were set to open 3 bids this past week. We had, or last week, I'm sorry. So dredging, we only received 1, so we had to rebid that, and we will open it tomorrow, assuming we do get a bid again. A belt press for the sludge management at the wastewater treatment plant was set to be open last week. We only received 2, and so that has also been rebid and should be open on Friday. And then we received 4 bids last Friday for the Morse Park improvements, and we have a team together that's ranking those qualifications, and we should have a decision on that hopefully next week, but we are in the process of that. For dredging, I also wanted to add that we are in the process of applying for our individual permit, and that will allow us to mechanically dredge on a larger scale. this Friday, June 14th at Morris Park, we are having our Lake Lure flag retirement ceremony, so I invite you all to attend that. That'll be at 6:30 p.m. And lastly, I just want to thank all the staff and council, citizens, everyone. And I also want to note that my entire report is in the meeting packet, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
Thank you very much. We've gotten a lot of work done in the last month, certainly. We'll now move on to review actions taken in the May's work session and action
Yep.
meeting.
I apologize, I skipped that part. We approved the Parks, Recreation, and Lake Coordinator position. That is now being advertised, so if you know anyone interested, please tell them to submit an application. Authorization to condemn and order the removal of a seawall and boathouse within the time frame specified in the ordinance, and to stabilize the shoreline after removal of the seawall. And that was a community development item. We appointed the town clerk, and then approval of the conceptual site plan for the workforce housing site plan, sorry. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Move on then to item 5, our public hearing. I do have the public hearing, and this is for ordinance number 24-06-11, adopting the fiscal year 24-25 budget. We have a staff report. Will that be from you or from Steve?
Yeah, I
From
will just
both
say,
of you?
we've been reviewing this for, with council for a few months now. It did start with staff prior to that. It's a pretty straightforward budget, no tax increases, and, I think it'll go well. Steve, do you wanna add anything?
No, unless there's any other questions.
Okay.
Are there any questions? We've had a lot of meetings to consider this, so it has been a process which has been thoroughly vetted and lots of input from everyone, and changes unfortunately for Steve, but he's very good about that, and very tolerant about it. So are there any questions from the council at this point?
I think when Olivia said no tax increase, that was your cue to clap.
Right, right.
I heard nothing.
Yeah.
I heard nothing.
Anyway, that,
And I will just add that we plan to do a mid-year review. So that'll be a good opportunity for everyone to see how our budget is going, see if we need to adjust, and I think that's gonna be good moving forward.
And I will say to that point, I think in the past, we have raised taxes twice since I've been mayor, but, I think everybody realizes the money has been well appropriated. It's been for our dam capital reserve, and that money has continued to accrete every year $1.6 million towards the dam. So I think whenever you know what your taxes are actually being spent on, and they actually are being spent, all that, and monitored to be sure that they are, it makes you feel a lot better about having your taxes increased.
Yep.
All right, we will then move on to the next item, which is ordinance number 24 dash.
Well,
we need.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, the council deliberation. Yeah.
Yeah,
The public hearing.
and public hearing, yeah.
Did anybody sign up to speak in public
This-
hearing?
mm-mm,
Did
this
we
is
ever
just-
sign up for that?
They did not. We have a public comment,
Yeah.
but there was no one who signed up for that, no.
Do we need to officially go into public hearing?
I would
Yes.
think so,
Yeah.
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 Yes, sir.
All right, do I hear a motion then to go into public hearing?
Madam Mayor, make a motion, we go into public hearing and with concerning ordinance number 24-06-11, adopting fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right?
All right,
Then we are now in public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment about this ordinance adopting the budget for 2024-25? We welcome your input, as always.
I make a motion, we close public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then the public hearing is now closed.
Mhm.
Any comments from the council?
Just a quick one. Our town manager, Ms. Stuman, alluded to it a moment ago for the mid-year review, because we are in a seasonal community that is highly allocated towards visitors, but our community, we live here and pay taxes all year round. So our mid-year review gives us an opportunity to look at our expenditures that we're spending in our high season, when the grass is high, the water is full, and people are everywhere, versus when it's January the 15th and we can throw a cannonball down the highway. And it gives us an opportunity to look at those and then find where our percentages are and give us some efficiency models so we can get ahead of the curve for our next budget projections going into the fiscal year next year and be ahead of the game, so.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Frank. Any other comments?
I've been through a lot of budget sessions, and this was one of the better ones,
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
whatever it's worth. Thank you.
I would absolutely agree.
Yes, thanks, Steve.
Yes.
And
Mr.
and
Ford.
Olivia.
And Olivia, and
Everybody
all the
else,
department heads,
department
all the
heads,
staff, 'cause
yeah.
everybody really was a part of this and contributing, and I think that, under Olivia and, Steve, I think, it's become much more transparent to all the department heads, and I think everybody has a much better idea of what a budget really is supposed to be. It's not just supposed to balance, that's not just it. It's supposed to really be sort of a guideline on what you do, and I think we're doing a great job with that, so we appreciate you, Olivia, very much. All right then, do I hear a motion to adopt ordinance number 24-06-11?
Madam Mayor, if I may, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 24-06-11 for the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Here's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then ordinance number 24-06-11 is unanimously adopted. We'll then move on to item B, ordinance number 24-06-11A, amending the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 4, Animals. First, we'll have a staff report. Is that from Mike Williams?
Yes.
Is this more chickens, Mike?
Goats.
Goats? What else is there? Elephants?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
You know, this is about basically it's about the public schools and support of the public schools. And they have a program where they use goats to, they study them. They use it for kudzu eradication as well. But it's a program that they use in the school. And they had done it, apparently unaware that that was not permitted within the town. And came back to us and asked, would it be possible to be considered for a public school, to carve out for a public school to be able to use those animals in the structure of the school for educational purposes. So what we've done is made a recommendation with 200-foot buffers from any residence or business to allow goats and chickens, which obviously, for educational purposes within the limits of Lake Lure. Zoning Planning Board reviewed it back on, I think it was April the
Couple months ago.
yeah, a couple months ago, and approved, made the recommendation, so it's coming forward now.
All right. Any questions?
I'll wait for deliberation, I guess.
All right, then do I hear a motion to move into public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Did you second?
Second.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Then we are now in public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment about either chickens or goats? Yes. Did you have a comment?
I'm a little confused. I thought we'd already settled the chicken.
You have.
We did, yes,
We
ma'am.
have.
This is only
Chickens
concerning.
are not- Has nothing to do with this.
Are we talking about goat? Anybody, my neighbor's not gonna have.
No.
No, this is just
This is
for the
just
school,
just
just
for
the
the
public
So
school.
I'll go ahead, yeah.
Just in a public school,
Can you
not
rent a
any
goat?
other,
Well, could you allow us to rent
No.
the kudzu?
No.
And then we can donate, we can donate each of the goats after somebody on the council, and you can give your money to them.
There you go.
Yeah, if
Let
you,
me, let me go ahead and here, I was gonna do this in deliberation, but I'll just do this as part of the public hearing. As the liaison to the zoning and planning board, we were presented by the school with this opportunity. It's not a year-round situation. The company brings goats in, they set them up, they pin them up, they move the pins around and eradicate kudzu. It's kind of necessary, it's great over there by the school, and I'm sure there's probably a bunch of us that would like to have them to eradicate kudzu at our house. But this was also an opportunity to allow these kids to have some hands-on learning and get a little education with these goats. They, like as Mike said, they've kind of already been doing it, but we just wanted to make sure that we had some rules in place to go with it. Again, it's not a year-round thing, it's just during kudzu season. And according to Clint Calhoun, who is at the school, my understanding is after these goats work in a spot for a few years, that the kudzu doesn't come back. So he's able to, they're able to move this around, and I think personally, I thought it was a great idea, so.
And I think this is a totally different situation.
Yeah,
It's for educational purposes.
Yes,
and
school only,
Yeah.
Barbara.
Yeah.
Barbara, school only.
And this is really more about a school program than it is about goats
It
or
It
kudzu
is,
eradication.
it is, absolutely. Gives these kids a lot of hands-on and kind of like what's happening with the rowing and stuff like that. They get to do some things they might not normally get to do, so.
Okay.
One other comment? What, the way the,
Oh,
The other thing is that, again, children can't keep a lot of oversight, so we have no other choice. You know, we can't be spraying when the kids aren't spraying, and that's one of the reasons that we felt like we had to go with something that is educational and safe, and we can get good companionship or something.
that's a good point.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other, go ahead.
I need to point out too, it's not in the agenda item request, but the recommendation included that the council would approve any school, asking for goats. It's okay, but it would be with specific approval from town council. That's what zoning and planning put in there.
Right.
You may not want that, it may not be necessary, there's not a whole lot of public schools in Lake Lure,
Right.
but that was in the recommendation.
Thank you for letting us
Yep.
know
The
that.
blessing is we have one here now after so many years of not, so, yep. Thank you so much.
Close the public hearing.
Want me to close?
Yeah, need a motion.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the public hearing is closed. We'll move on then to,
We have to approve
the
the
council
ordinance.
deliberation.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any,
Mr. Doster, did you have anything else you were, I know you
Nope,
already.
that was,
oh,
I just decided
Was
that
it?
since it came up in that, I might as well just, that was what I wanted.
Rock and roll with
And
it.
Anybody else have
I've
any
forgotten about
comments?
what the doc said about the
Oh, yes, ma'am.
herbicides and stuff too.
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
all right, in that case, I think we are in agreement. to,
Madam
your
Mayor, make a motion to adopt ordinance number 24-06-11A.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then ordinance number 24-06-11A is unanimously approved. We will now move on to our council liaison reports and comments. We'll begin with Commissioner Foster.
So zoning and planning met about elephants. We'll start with ABC. ABC board met May 20th. Not a lot to report, everything's running smoothly at the store. Business is really great. It appears, and we'll have our meeting next week to get the financials from last month, but business definitely seems like it's up and over prior months. They actually had almost a $17,000 day about 2
Wow.
weeks ago.
I must not hear that.
So
I think that was my birthday.
it might have been, yeah. That's pretty impressive for that little store, so.
It is. What,
But
I mean, that is so much bigger. You know, it'd be interesting to know on this day in the
Yeah.
old store, what the difference was,
Right, right, yep. But yeah, the store's running great, so please visit. The zoning and planning board regular meeting was held May 21st. The board reviewed a proposed 10-lot, single-family residential subdivision plat located between Quail Ridge Road and Kings Drive. Mainly was brought to the board by community development, just to give them a heads up that down the road, some things would be coming along with this. It's not quite ready. I think there's still water they're working on. There's still a few things taking place, but just so these guys had a little bit of a heads up is what might be coming along. And there was also a little discussion regarding historical overlay for the town of Lake Lure and any appropriateness for the town to, I think you can do a historical overlay and you can kind of section off places in town to be historical, not by the National Historical Society, but by us. Kind of create some places that we might like. So they're kind of looking at that. We'll continue to move forward with that and just see what develops. And that's all I have, man.
Right, thank you very much. Mr. Diorio.
Thank you, Mayor. So, most of the Lake Advisory Board deliberations were presented at the Marine Commission, but I'll just get a summary for those of you who came in afterwards. So there's a new buoy plan that's been approved, reducing the number of buoys on the lake from about 96 down to 62, with a particular standard applied to the placement of those buoys to improve the buffer that we have for swimmers, for non-motorized vessels. They're a better place to see them. That buffer is more defined and will help us out. That's been approved. That'll be posted on our website, so you can see where the buoys are gonna go and will be implemented shortly. Second thing, as we talked about, the concern over non-motorized watercraft, the increase in numbers based on removing the permits, that is on the docket. We'll look at that. We'll gather data on the Lake Advisory Board, and we'll move forward with the recommended policy change a little bit later on. Third thing that's out there that we're looking at, there's a new industrial ramp that was built temporarily in Morris Park on the riverside that we took a look at and think it might be a good place to have a secondary non-motorized watercraft ramp available to folks, which would take that pressure off the motorized ramp over here. So then we'd have the prior ABC property and this ramp over here. Right now, of course, it's being used for industrial use, but we'll take a look at that to see if there's some minor modifications or improvements that may be made to make that a secondary site, and that recommendation from the LAB will come forward at that time. So those are the things that LAB is working on. Thank you, Kathy, for all your work. It's been impressive. The Board of Adjustments did meet. There's one appeal that we'll be hearing later on that I won't get into. No other trends noted during the
All right.
BOA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Proctor.
The Park and Rec Board met June 6th, and we talked about, there was some concern about the playground at Morris Park, and Dana let us know that there was a full inspection done, and it's in good shape at this point. There will be new welcome signs. I don't know that they've been designed yet, but we're working on, if anybody's looked at the welcome signs coming into the town of Lake Lure, they're old and some dilapidated, and that will be changed hopefully within the month. Reported there were 114 volunteer hours, which of course saves the town a lot of money, but unreported are all the volunteer hours at the Flowering Bridge. Some of the Carolina Climbing Coalition, there's a lot of groups out there doing work that's not reported. So I think when I tell folks 114 volunteer hours, usually you can at least double that, and that's what volunteers are helping the town with, and that's always appreciated and certainly needed. The Flowering Bridge folks let us know that there were fairy gardens installed, so I encourage folks to go look at that. And towards the end of the meeting, we talked about the Lake Lure Comprehensive Plan. That plan was started in 2007, and it's supposed to go to 2027. Of all the comp plan, probably the one that needs to be changed the most is the section on park and recreation. And I say that in 2007, when this thing was created, there was no school, golf course was operating, there was no state park, no Weed Patch Trail, and no Buffalo Creek Trail. So obviously, the things that need to be addressed are different than they were back then. And so every member of that committee received a copy of the comp plan, and we will start in earnest deliberating on how to change that at our next meeting. That's
Thank
all I
you.
have.
And I'll follow up with that. We do have a scheduled meeting of the steering committee on June the 27th at 10 a.m.
Yep.
Right, so just to refresh everybody, this is just a committee that does not meet every month. It just meets as needed, and it is to determine what the use of the funds that we get from TDA is every year. And the chair of the steering committee, and almost every position on the steering committee is positional. It's not by who you are, but maybe what position you hold in large part, which is really nice because they just always know who the next person is. So the chair of the steering committee is always the person who chairs the Parks and Recs board, which is great because they work so much together in determining, where are we gonna go with some of these things. So we will have a meeting on June the 27th at 10 o'clock, both to talk about, we are able with the TDA to roll our money for 3 years, which is good. They give us $100,000 every year because 100,000 doesn't go very far, as you know. But we need to start talking about what's our next plan. And that's the way the TDA likes for it to work, and it's good for us too. So Jim will be joining the steering committee too, as he's the council liaison for Parks and Recs, because the two things, you cannot separate the two boards, to be honest with you. So we'll let you know more about that when it happens. So once again, we appreciate everyone who works so diligently on these boards and does it tirelessly, tiringly sometimes, I think. But it is so important that we have that input from the people in our community because we have so much expertise there. And both the Marine Commission and the council really depends on the recommendations from our advisory board. So thank you all for it. We appreciate you very much. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is public comment. I do have 3 people who signed up. However, after these 3 people are finished, if there's anyone who did not have an opportunity to sign up, you are welcome to come forward. Just to remind you, when you come to the podium, even though we know who you are, we know who you are, and we know where you live, remember that one? But if you will state that for the record, and then you do have 3 minutes. And just to keep yourself, because 3 minutes is hard to envision how actually short that is. If you turn that little hourglass over there, that's your 3 minutes. So first, Debbie Warren.
Debbie Warren, 138 Yacht Island Drive. I just want to say thanks to the town and to the community. We had our Lure of the Lake swim this past Saturday. We launched from the beach, and we had 158 participants from 12 states, the furthest being Alaska, who made this race part of their continental trip, and so we're really excited. It went really great. We couldn't have done it without our Lake Lure Fire and police departments. We're very thankful for all that they did, as well as our kayak crew. Took a lot of community volunteers. I will say that Lake Lure community really steps up for the Olympiad events, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much, and look for us again August 9, 10, and 11 for 3 races in 3 days.
All right, Wendy Farno.
Thank you. I'm going to take your advice on the timer. My name's Wendy Farland, and I live at 363 Chapel Point Road. I've never spoken to the town council before, and I'm coming up to share some views about the cell phone tower. I know this isn't going to be popular, probably me standing here. I know that we spoke briefly, Olivia and I, about the fact that you're looking to break ground on Boys Camp Road in July, and I would just like to find out any information I can about possibly any other options. I was going to say that I think Lake Lure's greatest tourist attraction are our views. It's the view of the lake, it's the views from Chimney Rock. I don't think people are coming here for ice cream. I think it's the most beautiful place in the country. And I've been fortunate enough to see almost every national park in America. And we chose here to live and buy our forever home. And when I arrived and realized that's going to be right next to where I think Patrick lives, but we're over on Boys Camp Road off Chapel Point. I won't see it from my home, but I think it'll become Cell Tower Road. That's will be the name of it instead of Boys Camp Road. Like it'll just be, I'm gonna try to send emails out of renderings that I've had done by a professional to show what the tower is going to look like as far as like the height of it. But I feel like every wedding photo that's ever taken at Morris Park, which is the most beautiful park, every time I see it, from a boat or walking. It's breathtaking. Every bride's and groom's picture will be, or groom's partners and anyone, that tower will be in every photograph. Every sunset photo any artist ever tries to render or do with photography, that cell phone tower will be in every photograph that you see from Chimney Rock, that you see from the lake. And I feel like it's marring your prayer. You opened the prayer with the beautiful views of the lake and the town, and I know you've worked tirelessly to find the perfect place to put the tower. But I don't think people realize a 20-story building or a 195-story, it'll be 20 stories, so 200 feet or 195-foot tower, what that's going to look like for all the generations who come. And I was thinking of seeing the Better Living magazine voting Lake Lure the most beautiful lake in the South. But I feel that we might be making a mistake, I know my time's up, that we might be making a mistake to mar the very God-given land. This is the most beautiful place. And I'm like, can't we find anywhere else for it? Okay, so if anyone wants to join my hunt for some other solution.
We appreciate your input.
Thank
We
you
do.
so much
Thank you.
for letting me come up here and speak.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Kimberly Sales?
Hello, Kimberly Sales, 122 Harris Road. I'm just making it official. I wasn't sure if everybody knew we're doing Vintage Vibe in September. We're not doing the Dirty Dancing Festival this year, and so we've created a tourism committee off of the chamber, and we're trying to keep our heritage of things that happen in the area alive. And so we're trying to do an old school vintage things that have happened in the past in Lake Lure to let the people who live here and the new people who have moved in on what's happening. We've got a lot of things shored up. One of the additional things, this is why I'm here on what we need to have shored up, is to be able to do the lake lift, because that is famous for the Dirty Dancing movie, and nowhere else will nostalgic it enhance would be on the beach. And so I know I need to go through Sonia, on doing an application and everything, but I just kind of want to put it in your ear. We really would like it. It's September 7th, a Saturday, for 2.5 hours, just to do the lift. We're trying to maybe get the firehouse, I've had a conversation with them, involved. Maybe they could do a CPR class there for the locals. I feel like this year, this little Vintage Vibe will be more of a locals kind of celebration. It's after the major holiday. It might not draw a lot of people, but if we could just fill our beds, and that puts feet in the seats kind of thing, and just remember our history. And that is it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Look forward to it.
Thank you very much. There's no one else who has signed up. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Well, as always, we appreciate your comments, and I mean that sincerely, we really do. And so we appreciate you always making them too constructively. That is the way they should be. So we will move on then from our public comment to our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted? Madam Mayor, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the consent agenda stands approved as posted. We have no unfinished business. We'll move on to new business. Our first item on new business is a request to appeal notice of violation. Have you Mike Williams?
The community development had issued some fines for a project that had ended up with some failed erosion and sediment control, and had been working with the property owner. And I think the only comments I can really make, I'm not the one that's been working closely with them, but Rick Carpenter is laying underneath 2 sick feverish children at home right now, and so I'm filling in. But I can tell you that I've seen the interaction between Rick and with the property owner, and it's been very good. And what I've heard from Rick, it has been very cooperative and very good. That said, there have been some significant issues. They've been addressed. I think there's two things that are still left to be done. I think there's a reforestation plan that, I'm not sure, reforestation plan they're working on, and stormwater outlet to redesign that. But the work has been done, very cooperative, very, very easy to work with on it. The fines were not overly significant, but they are there. We would support a reduction. I understand his concern with that. I think that, just for consistency and to keep some level of deterrent, that I would not recommend going less than at least 25% of the existing fines.
Mike, when I was reading this the other day, I say the contractor removed the, all the erosion control between the job site and the lake. Why did he do that? Do you know?
I do not know,
Okay,
and I know that's been alleged. I don't know what happened there. Sometimes you're gonna remove controls when you're working, when you've got to expand there. They may have to, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be going out there because you'd have to enlarge your area of disturbance.
I think it's
So I don't know
interesting.
what happened. The issue was it wasn't replaced on the site.
Yeah, the way this is kind of written, it says on 5/7/24, it was discovered that in all erosion control between the job site and the waters of Lake Lure had been removed by the contractor, Bill Thompson. Do you know why that was moved?
The only thing I know is there are times, as Mike was referring to, where he's working along the edge, and I think this was the bottom of a retaining wall, so he was working on the footing for that retaining wall. So that was removed, and actually it was not only just put back, but a second row was put back as well.
So is this the same Bill Thompson? Or do I have the name confused on the Tryon Bay?
He's done other projects.
The
Yeah, he worked.
on the
he worked at
corner
Tryon
lot
Bay as
right
well.
there? That's the
Yeah.
same guy?
Yeah. Now, I think you've got to be careful not to go too far with the association on that. He's done a lot of other projects as well. But there were problems here. There were definite problems. It's a tough site, but you got to have tough contractors, and you got to have people that can do the job for these tough sites in Lake Lure. So that's why the fine is there.
Mike, is this project 100% complete?
No, sir.
I would personally feel better about perhaps putting the fines on hold, but keep them in place and then talk about reduction perhaps when we see how the final product is.
I'm not sure
Is
engineers
that-
got everything.
Yeah, I agree, Jim, I
Signed
think
off,
that's right.
yeah.
That was my thoughts exactly.
Well, the county engineer signs off.
I got a
That's
question too.
consistent.
I have a question about the photograph that he makes comments in here about this drain on town property was clogged and is not functioning, causing some of that. Is that, I mean, this picture is pretty obvious to me. Is that, can you, ma'am, I don't know, should I ask him to come up here so he's on the record with his name?
Would you like to come forward and give us your opinion so that we have you, we can put you on the record if you'll state your name when you come up,
Dean
please?
Lindsay.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tom Housley. I'm the property owner and the general contractor. I've owned property here at the lake for about 12 years. We're building now. What Mike has described is accurate. What's not there so much is when that drain clogged, the puddle got so big that the road water went down the construction entrance, as well as when it goes into the pipe, it traverses over the neighbor's property and came back in to the excavation site that we were working on. So we got it not only off the road, but even when it worked properly, it came back around. There's no way that my silt fence would have held.
Okay.
Plus, it took the cul-de-sac at the top of the road, plus about, I would say, 150 feet of roadway that drains into that drain. That's why I was looking for some consideration. It
All right,
wasn't,
let's do this. Thank you.
okay.
Let's do what you said, Jim. let's wait
Put
till
it on
this is
hold.
put back
And
together.
take that into consideration.
Yep, and we'll take that in consideration.
One thing on that point, you know, the ordinance says if you don't pay it in 30 days, you get fined, you know, it gets worse.
That's why.
And I don't want to go into that
Yeah, we can-
category
so
on
we'll-
it.
No,
No,
So-
no, no, it would be put on hold.
Hold,
Okay,
And then when it's completed, then we'll review.
Thank you very
reducing.
much.
But
Yeah.
Yes, we understand your point on that one.
Good.
All right, do I hear a motion then?
Jim? I'll get back.
I'll make a motion that we readdress this request for appeal after the project is complete.
second,
All in favor?
aye.
Then it passes you, that
Do we need,
request of passes.
Dean, has that,
do we have to vote this?
has that drain been cleaned?
Yes, we've been cleaning all the drains in town, I was just trying to figure out which one it was. Where we're having a problem, a lot of it is when the drains are installed with grates and the massive amount of leaves and everything, they are easy to get clogged, but we are looking at resolutions on how to
That's fine.
fix that.
Okay.
Yep, got you. Yep, thanks.
Thank you. All righty, we'll move on then. Request to appeal decision by the Lake Structure Appeals Board regarding LSP dash 2024009. I think that was probably right. I think you may stay up here and save yourself walking back and forth for a while.
Excuse me. This one's pretty relatively, should be simple, hasn't been simple. Deck top accessory structure. It's basically a gazebo on top of a boathouse deck. And it is a permitted structure, but it does require that the board, the Lake Structures Appeals Board, view it and confirm that it does not materially obstruct the view of any, adjacent neighbors of the lake. And so we went through that. All the criteria were, the board found that all the criteria was met. Actually, we found it, the board found it. They'd been out to look at it. They determined that it did not materially obstruct the view of the lake, and made a decision to grant that appeal. Grant the permit. And there was some additional conversation from a neighbor that was concerned, and so the board agreed to go backwards and say, we'll go back and look at it again. And the property owner had agreed to set up basically a mock-up of the deck top accessory structure on top of the boathouse. Everybody could see what it would actually look like, what you'd be looking through, and went to the neighbors to look through it. And they came back at the next meeting and voted and approved it again. So it's been appealed, and of course, the appeal would come to y'all since it was with the Lake Structures Appeals Board.
Any
Our
questions?
our department recommendation would be that it meets the standards of the ordinance, and it should be allowed.
Thank you. You might as well stay because you're next. Any more questions, discussion?
Did Nancy?
Yes, would you like to come?
Madam Chairman, Board, I'm Nancy McNary on Sunset Cove. Just a few words. I was present at the town council meeting when the Lake Structure Code was adopted. I think it was back in the 90s. Jim would remember. It was designed to protect the neighbors so no one's view would ever materially be obstructed. It is my belief that this recently permitted deck top structure next door to me is not in harmony with the purpose and intent of that code. It is going to be injurious and will set an unbelievable precedence to the general welfare of the community spirit in sharing our quintessential lake view. Furthermore, with all the irregular shorelines around our lake, if this is the new standard, neighbors will now be seeking permission to build deck-top viewing platforms, the structures, to see the views over the tops of obstructing decktop views. Obviously, it creates adversaries and divisions among neighbors in the neighborhood. This structure in no way improves my neighbor's view. Here are pictures that I tried to share before. My son did a drawing. This was a picture taken because the lake was down. My son did a drawing. This is what his rendition of what is been permitted at this point or been approved. Okay. That's what I passed down. Also, just for information, here's a picture taken from my boathouse of what my view was in the breeze. Interesting, before the last meeting, I was reading in Southern Living and came across this article of on Lake Lure that you all saw, I'm sure, in Southern Living. And the first picture here, again, is our quintessential view of Lake Lure. You know, it's, you can pass that around, it's just out of Southern Living. So, during the permitting process, I kept requesting dimensions of the boathouse on my side of the lake, that I saw, be made available. It is my understanding because I cannot pin it down, the boathouse is presently 38 feet out into the lake. Obviously, 30 feet beyond 30 feet is the code. Will this affect the deck top structure? But that's been my dilemma at all these meetings, requesting that. Before the second LIC meeting, I said the following statement to the board. I understand Mr. Perlman to say at the first hearing that he would not be adding screens or walls to the proposed structure. So I wrote, as a result, should a permit be granted, I assume that it would formally include the statement in the permit that screens and walls are not to be part of the structure. Upon reviewing the minutes, though, no reference was made to the statement. And so, right now before you, I am requesting that I'm not requesting anything that Mr. Perlman did not enter into the record as part of his design plan after he was sworn in. In preparation for the second meeting, I formally requested that his statement, no screens or walls, be codified in the permit for the deck top structure if it was voted in the affirmative. Tonight, again, I am formally requesting that this sworn statement in the record of no screens and walls be codified in this permit for the deck top structure. As you could see, looking at the picture, how important, all right, the board has already voted to put the structure up. I'm asking you as council to codify his statement, no screens or walls, so that at least I will have this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Mike, any comment at all on how just inherent in the permit it is that there wouldn't be screens or walls? Any protection there without actually saying it?
I don't recall what was in, I actually don't recall what was in the minutes. I know there was a comment about walls, not having walls in there, and we had the conversation that just as the ordinance states that it shall be completely, a deck top accessory structure shall be completely open on all sides, except for partial walls no more than 42 inches in height and up above the surface of the rooftop deck and insect screening. So you can't close it in. It's got that 42-inch knee wall that can be around it, and then insect screening.
So the question is on that deck, what's the height of that handrail on the?
That's already there.
It's already there. What's the height of that handrail?
That is I think it's.
I don't know, there's the code. I just
Yes,
don't know
it's
what-
the code. It's,
40.
Yeah. Well, that's,
40
that's the basis of the 42 inches.
Right, so that, I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I'm saying, and
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if, obviously don't know,
That's 42 inches, 3.5 feet. I'm only 5 feet.
Yeah.
3.5 feet. We're not talking, a couple of inches.
because I'm just thinking about first of all, there's no really record of the statement that he made.
Well, I can.
And that's okay, I'm just saying that, sometimes some permits are issued with some caveats. I've been to meetings where that's been done, where you do it. But when I look at this and I see the 40, I'm looking at your rail, I'm assuming this is your rail off of your deck. And you're looking across at the dock over here and I see that rail,
Yeah, it's already there.
and that's already there. So if there was another rail, it wouldn't be any higher than what's already there, that you're already looking at. Make sense?
The screens will be blind,
Mike, what's the total height of this structure, do you know?
10 feet.
Yeah,
I think
that's the max is 10 feet.
it's 10 feet, and that's by code as well.
Right.
The maximum height of the boathouse is 15 foot.
And that's been
So-
verified, the 15.
Yeah, that boathouse has been there.
That's, it's within code.
Yeah.
And I think it's been brought up at the board met in April and made a determination, and I think was very gracious, maybe accommodating to agree to go back out and look. And so they put up, here's the structure, put up posts on the corners where it'd be located to, so that the board would be able to see exactly what they're looking at.
He told me those posts were where the posts would be, not the corners of the building, where the posts are. That was what I was told at the last meeting, where the posts would be. At least they put up posts, but it wasn't the full width of the structure.
So,
Yeah, that's what it's based on. 42
Mine-
inches.
I've got a couple of things. If that railing is in fact 42 inches high, the drawing that was presented is much bigger than 10 feet.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's.
I don't know whose drawing that is, but that's.
And the other thing is on the, may I
Haven't seen
have
the drawing.
Yes, sir.
This one.
You talking about this,
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah.
This is just an
Yeah,
interpretation.
right.
This isn't
Well,
finished.
it's
Right.
interpreted much bigger if that's the
Yeah.
case.
Right.
The other thing is, good news is this picture won't change at all because the end of the boat dock is right here.
Right.
So luckily that view will still be intact.
Nancy, come here,
Yeah.
please. If we look at this as the enclosure that he might want to do, okay? Because he can't go any higher than this, because this is the handrail, so that's what.
I don't know the dimensions.
And,
but
and
yeah.
as Commissioner Diorio pointed out,
That's the basis
that's the
of it, yeah.
basis of
But this
any-
is a
any enclosure.
quintessential view.
I got it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
this,
yeah.
his rail, or anything that he were to do, would not go higher than the top of this right here.
I think that's less than, because
But
3.5
that-
feet, I'm 5 feet, so 3.5 feet is right there.
That's standard. That's
Yeah.
42 inches is standard
Is
rail.
there
Yeah.
any?
It won't be
I
3
don't know the
feet, it's too
code.
short.
Vince, what's the code on handrail height?
Rail is probably 3 feet. 42 inches is kind of a guardrail height for us,
Yeah,
but it can be 3 feet by code. That's probably 3 feet.
3 feet, so another 6 inches?
So actually,
Yeah.
what he's talking
Okay.
about, that
So
would
see,
be
that-
higher than it's only 3
I
feet.
just,
I don't know, Nancy,
but I always thought that if you, what you present, I was on the
And thank you, let me hang on. But
Yeah.
I wanted you
Gotta
to see
maintain decorum.
what I'm visualizing here as well.
Can we put
Oh, yeah,
restrictions on the code?
If you
Are we
look
allowed
at
to do
this
that?
view right
Are we
here,
allowed to?
Yeah, like no
only
one
this part of the boat
Yeah, I
dock
mean, can-
is
that's
in
what I was gonna say.
the
Can
view.
Are we allowed to
shed.
do that?
I don't think there's any reason
This
why
picture
not
will be
with
exactly
zoning.
the same after the deck top's added.
Just to add to
If
it.
you feel that's appropriate.
I'm just saying that this view will not change.
So, yeah,
And this is drawn too big.
yeah.
If I'm,
And that,
I cannot get good, there's
Right.
no,
Yeah.
you never did find, drawing of the dimensions on my side. You know, how.
there has to be a
They're the
drawing.
same on all
Has to
sides.
be coded.
There has to be that.
There's
for-
one somewhere.
To be even permitted, so, as I, the idea of protecting people's view is what we, is part of this whole equation here, and that what we've always done with this. And as I said before, Dave just said this, if I've seen permits issued for certain things with stipulations. And in this particular case, it could be that a 42-inch screen does impede somewhat of this view. So I know what our code says, but that's, to me, would be on a dock that is not gonna impede, her property does sit back. I rode over there and looked myself, a few weeks ago. And I saw the post that they had up, and I can see what it's gonna look like. So is that something that, in this particular case, and I'm sure this is gonna come up again somewhere else eventually, where somebody sits back just a little bit, and the structure's up here, and if you screen it, then it would block off some of the, I don't think you have a problem with the structure, because we can't stop the structure. But if we look at because by right, you get the structure, right?
Correct.
But we can put a restriction on this particular property that does not have a screen.
Yeah, that's good. I'm good with that.
Can we do that?
I don't think there's any reason you can't.
I'm in favor of the.
William, I don't-
The flood structure of the building.
Yeah.
I mean, without the.
I think,
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, please.
Please come forward. We'd love that.
I'll try to be brief. I'm Nicholas White. I'm the attorney for David and Janet Perlman, the owners of 183 Sunset Cove. On the question of the obstruction of the view, we can certainly understand the commission wanting to, or the council wanting to find compromise here. But I think what the council hasn't heard, and what was brought up during the prior hearings on this permit, are the accommodations that the Perlmans have already voluntarily made for the McNary's property view, even to where they constructed their house in the first place. They actually set the house back further than they were otherwise required to do to prevent any obstruction of the McNary's property's view from the very beginning. Now, they've since tried other options other than this rooftop or this deck top structure prior to even asking for the permit in the first place. They tried temporary umbrellas on cantilevers, right? And it didn't work. They didn't hold up to the wind. There wasn't a safe way to go about doing it. And so that was the initial compromise to try to prevent any unnecessary obstruction of the view. And now we're talking about, again, another accommodation for the sake of a screen or that may go onto the structure. And the ordinance already permits insect screens just by right with a permit. I think at this point, the Perlmans have voluntarily, just by being good neighbors, have taken actions above and beyond what they were even required to do prior to even going down this road. To pose any additional restriction on them at this point, I think, is inequitable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much, sir.
And I'm here for any other questions you guys may have. Of course, the architect and builder are both here as well, so.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything you want to say? Any more discussion? Are y'all ready to make a decision? motion?
I'll make a motion, we affirm the Lake Structures Appeal Board's ruling.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then it passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And I know it's difficult, but I think there was a lot of deliberation that was given to it along the way. It wasn't made precipitously, so thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next issue, which is consider approval of concession agreement with the Lodge on Lake Lure.
Yes, Dana can jump in if she would like, but the Lodge on Lake Lure would like to operate a tour boat. In order to do so, based on our lake use regulations, you'd have to have a concession agreement with the town. I had the draft for this at the last work session, and the only change that was made that was discussed during that meeting was instead of a lump sum, we are going with the 15% that every other concession agreement abides by.
Right, and that was really the only change.
Well, there was one minor change, but there was one other change, which is the area that talks about the certification for the operators. It talks in there that they have to complete the safety course that's approved by the Marine Commission, provided by Parks and Rec. We don't do that anymore. So that just needs to go away. So you got the Coast Guard certification in there, and you got our licensing, but that annual course no longer exists, right? So I would line through that.
Still, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other
I didn't
changes
notice
or
that.
edits?
So basically, they just want, we're doing this for just this particular concession agreement, paying annually?
No,
No,
they're,
that's the other one.
this is, that's the next one.
This-
Oh, am I back?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, sorry. One ahead, okay.
Yeah,
Nope.
this is the Lake
I'm good.
Lure, it was like $2,500 was the lump sum. We took
Yeah,
that out for that
yeah,
15%.
yeah.
yeah.
I'm good.
Of that last one.
I had the wrong thing. Sorry.
Do I hear a motion then?
Yeah, I recommend we approve the concession agreement with the Lodge on Lake Lure as presented with Commissioner Diorio's adjustment regarding
Second?
the,
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And the board unanimously approves the concession agreement with the Lodge on Lake Lure. We'll move on then to D, consider approval of the concession agreement with Lake Life LLC.
I struggled
Olivia?
when I was typing that. It was Lake Lure LLC every time.
Man, before we start this one, I would like to recuse myself from this item because I have a financial interest in Lake Life LLC.
Is that agreeable to the other council
I'll make a
members?
motion, we exclude Commissioner Diorio from this item on the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Then you are recused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Olivia, did you want?
Yes, so this is the same exact situation. Lake Life would like to operate one tour boat. It is based out of the Lake House restaurant. They'll be operating out of that. There are a couple, well, I will take out the clause that we discussed in the last one. It
Right.
would be one amendment, but then the owner of Lake Life LLC approached me this morning and did request one other change. So instead of a monthly payment of the 15%, they are requesting an annual payment. This would be the 15th of December. They'd have to pay it by then. They would still get charged extra if they didn't pay it by then. But according to them, the Lake House Restaurant, they collect all of the revenues for this, and then they don't get those revenues until the end of the year. It's all a lump sum at the end of the year, so. Still the 15%, but they are requesting an annual payment instead of a monthly.
And this is just this one,
Just this
what
one.
I said a while ago.
Yes.
Steve? Is that an issue for,
I apologize.
That's okay.
I'm not familiar with what's the issue
it's
or
a
question.
The concession agreement being paid annually as opposed to being paid
No.
monthly.
Not from a revenue standpoint.
Not
I
for
mean,
your-
from a monthly
your books?
operation standpoint or anything like that. It wouldn't be an issue as long as administratively that's enforceable for Ms. Steuben.
well, that is my question.
Lake Lure Tours would turn the line.
Yeah.
Do they do a monthly Lakewood Tours? They do monthly. They do monthly billing, like Lakewood Tours does?
Yes.
I
There-
didn't realize that was, I didn't
Yeah,
realize they.
Rumbling Ball and Lake Lure Tours,
I
both.
didn't realize they didn't.
Or
do
month,
annual.
Yes, so they submit monthly. Now, if they missed a month, like Laylor Tours, if they're not operating, of course, they do not submit a report, but, you know, enforcing that, I've never had an issue about enforcing that monthly collection.
Typically, the smaller the operation, the more likely it is to be an annual instead of a monthly.
And if we're still collecting our 15% modicum standards for all our concession agreements, I don't see an issue with that. Like you said, a smaller operation has less accounting on the backside of operations and less revenue that they're gonna be generating, so an annual.
So to make sure we're not opening up the box
Because we,
for every other person, all of a sudden somebody wants to
Do it.
start paying annually.
yeah,
And I know that,
we get it.
Steve, sorry,
Yeah.
Well, it can be changed, because the Lake Lure Tours 20 years ago paid annually.
did,
instead of
I mean, they paid, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I know we can change it, and we can also, I think maybe the size of the business might affect, does that affect your operation?
Not from a financial end. We run at a, you know, surplus every month, money, you know, from a revenue standpoint. So it's not a fact that we need those incoming. Now, if we start talking to everyone, the state and everyone doing that, then
That's-
then
I mean,
then it
that's
becomes
my-
an issue.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Opportunity to know if they're gonna pay it or not. instead of
Yeah,
every
I mean,
month.
you're not looking,
You know.
should we, if we do something like this on a monthly, should we make them submit monthly,
Oh,
financials?
A balance.
And just keep a running total and so that we're not just 12 months from now go, oh, you guys only had 2 tours?
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to make it hard.
No.
I'm just,
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we talk about mid-year review. I don't know if this could happen where we would actually have to return money. Is there a possibility we could have to return funds from them if they overestimated, then they came back in and,
no,
and I'm not talking about a lot of money with that.
no,
I'm
they wouldn't be
funds.
paying anything. They would just be submitting to us, this is what we did in January.
Oh, the
February.
report. Oh,
Just the
okay, yes, sir.
report.
Yes,
At
sir.
the end of the month, at the end of the year. it
Oh, that
should-
would be ideal.
It should jive.
That would ideal, yeah, yes, sir, from a reporting standpoint. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll wait till you get to the back.
Yeah, I'll call you, I'll wait till you get all the way back there.
Way back.
Okay, yeah.
So do I hear a motion, or are we at that point? Do we need more consideration?
I'm good with it.
All right, go ahead, Jim.
Make a motion, we approve the concession agreement as amended with Lake Life LLC.
Madam Mayor, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the board unanimously approved the concession agreement with Lake Life LLC. We'll move on to E, resolution number 24-06-11, amending the personnel policy, and this is something we discussed at the work session as well. Olivia, you wanna?
Yes, this originally came up during a budget discussion, a couple months ago. As of current, there is no limit to our comp time, which looks not good on the books and is also just not sustainable. So we're looking to put a cap on the comp time. After an employee hit their limit, we would then have to pay overtime just based on state statutes. But it'd be easier to track overtime and it would look better on our books overall. So what I'm suggesting is 2 numbers. So I'm suggesting 120 comp time hours, a limit for public safety, and that's because their pay period, or not pay period, but their weekly schedules run on different hours. They exceed 40 hours a week. And then for all other employees, I'm recommending 80 hours limit. And that's really it. We can monitor it, if this does go through, we can monitor it throughout the fiscal year and see what impacts it would have.
I think
with
we all
overtime.
agreed when we were discussing it in budget deliberations that there were gonna have to be different policies for public safety than there are for the other departments, because many times they have no control over how many hours, that, you know, you can't be over your hours and we have a fire or an emergency and nobody can work. So I think everybody's in agreement on that. Do I hear a motion then?
Madam Mayor, I will make a motion to approve the resolution number 24-06-11, amending the personnel policy.
Second?
I'll second, Madam Mayor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then that resolution number 25-06-11, amending personnel policy, passes unanimously. Moving on to F, consider approval of Lake Advisory Board recommendation regarding navigation safety and lake conformance related to 429/441 Tryon Bay Circle. I will give that to Olivia.
Miss Kathy Hatfield, the Lake Advisory Board Chair.
Alrighty.
During the March 27th working session, or regular work session and action meeting of the town council, council passed a motion to adopt the requirement for a navigational safety and lake conformance review by the Lake Advisory Board and the Community Development Department in advance of non-conforming structures in the official minutes. It's 00 Tryon Bay Circle. That's since been identified as 429, 441 Tryon Bay Circle. This is regarding that sloped lot and the possibility of lake structures being put down at the bottom of that lot. On April 8th, Mr. Williams came to the Lake Advisory Board meeting and met with all of us and provided drawings and aerial photographs and measurements of the area. We also had approximately 15 residents from the Tryon Bay Circle area come and express their concerns with the navigation through and under the bridge and in that whole area. So on May 8th, the whole board, to include Commissioner DiOrio and PR directors at the time, Givens and Bradley, we all went out and took a boat out, sat out there and disturbed everybody on Tryon Circle while we measured and talked and moved things around and took a look at everything to see what kind of impact lake structures would have in that area. Now, technically, the zoning for the area allows for a 30-foot structure to come out. Turns out that's like way too big. The arch of the bridge is the biggest problem right there. And while it's only 110 feet, a 30-foot structure coming out from where the seawall currently is would reach almost to the apex of that arch and out into the middle. So you not only have to consider that you only have half of the bay entrance right there, but you also were going to have boats going in and coming out of that lake structure. So that adds to the 30 feet. There's also a home and a boathouse and a dock across from that on the north side where people could potentially be swimming, and they can be 50 feet out from the seawall. So it's a very congested area. We also took into consideration, thanks again to Dave Lusk, went out and took measurements for us that the average pontoon boat with a bimini up is 10 feet from the water line to the anchor light. And then we measured the inside span of the arch and found that the point at which you reach the 15 feet where a boat can just squeak through is the 10 feet where a boat can just squeak through is 15 feet in from either side. So we came up with that the determining factor on that whole area was the arch of that bridge. And I just received a report today from Officer Dills, who did 3 different traffic studies out there in that area. And his first study was conducted on a Monday, mid-afternoon to evening. His second study was on a Thursday evening until dusk. And then the third study, he did it on a Saturday, and he did it 2 times. He did it mid-morning until lunch, and then late afternoon until dusk. And he didn't have any concerns so much of the traffic coming in and out. Everybody seemed to be very polite. There didn't seem to be too much traffic from the lake house. although a lot of people would go to the lake house and then swing into Tryon Bay to make their turnaround and come back out. But the biggest problem was on the Saturday morning, where there were pontoons trying to get in and come out, and swimmers out in Tryon Bay. And he said that, he really reinforced what we came up with, was that the middle of that bridge is the place to be, to get in and out of there. And that's what's limiting the ingress and egress to the area. So, that being the case, and we looked at the boathouse that is adjacent to those two properties, and their boathouse is actually set in. And so they cut out and it becomes part of the seawall. So it actually is only approximately 15 feet out from the ground, extends out into the bay. So it's therefore the recommendation of the Lake Advisory Board that in order to protect swimmers, curb additional congestion, and allow and maintain safe access for water vessels under the bridge into and out of Tryon Bay, that any lake structure conducted at 429, 421 Tryon Bay Circle should not be permitted to extend any more than 15 feet out from the current seawall. That is the recommendation of the Lake Advisory Board.
Thank
Do you have any questions?
Got it.
I have a question for William. Can we adopted the lake structures rules with public hearing. Can we change something like this by just a motion?
Is this gonna be a change to the rules?
No, this
It's
is a
just a change for
property.
this, it's just for this one property.
It would be better to have it codified that it can be, in the interest of public health and safety, it can be shortened. But, I mean, you could go ahead and do it, and then we can look at an amendment that's consistent with it.
Okay.
I don't know how far along, I mean, they haven't.
If that's the case, I'm agreeing with the
Yeah.
recommendation.
I mean, from your viewpoint, Mike, this was just going to the record of that property, right? That's an additional, prior to an application, that's an additional restriction that's been imposed on the property as a matter of record on the property. Okay. So that's how it would work.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
No, I mean, yeah, that's a good point.
Do you hear a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the Lake Advisory Board recommendation regarding navigation safety and lake conformance related to 429, 441 Tryon Bay Circle.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then unanimously, the council approves the Lake Advisory Board's recommendation regarding navigation, safety, and lake conformance related to 429/441 Tryon Bay Circle. Move on then to the last issue on new business, request to appeal notice of violation, NOV-20240016. I'm assuming that's you, Mike.
I think you all realize this is related to the same property. And I think most people in town know what went on there. The project had been approved for zoning for the two homes there, had a land disturbance permit, had a very nice looking plan for all of them. I couldn't believe that there was a way to do the project, to put two homes in there. But they had tremendous engineer plans, got approval from the state. But as they were working, they ran into problems, and the soil was too hard, they had too much rock, and they ended up deviating from their plan, their grading plan, and they cut up to the road, then they cut into the road, cut out about, I can't remember exactly, but it's several feet of the road, and that wasn't good. And we saw that, and we stopped the job. And it was pretty egregious, and we ended up implementing fines. Again, they were cooperative. They moved very, very quickly, spent a lot of money getting engineers, getting folks in there to come up with a new plan to restore the restore the bank and restore the road. And that's been done, and we've Public Works has inspected, that job has been done. In the process, though, they ran up a lot of fees, and they were pretty stout fees because it was a big problem. And I think it ended up at $20,000 in fines. That's a little bit less than what the maximum allowed by state statute is. So they're asking to have the fees I think they actually asked to have them removed, have the fines removed on that. The project is complete, stabilized right now. We've asked for a little bit more work on the getting the grass going. They're doing some stuff there to stabilize a little bit further, but nothing has been going into the lake. I don't know what to say other than the fines were arguably appropriate. I think they probably were. It was a big problem. I think their request to have some relief from it is also reasonable. But I would say that for consistency again, and also to maintain some deterrent to this kind of thing happening, that $20,000 fee, I think that we shouldn't go more than, less than 25% of that. If you were
Mike,
to
this says
reduce it.
25,000. Is it 25,000 or is it 20,000?
That's a
20.
state
I think-
statute governing.
Oh, the governing statute
Yeah.
was 20,000. Okay, thank you.
25.
So it was 20,000, was it? Okay, thank you.
So Mike, did they put back the road and all that stuff? I know that was all at their expense. Did they pay for the paving that we had to do? Did they pay the town for the labor that we had? Because we had quite a bit of your time, Dean's time, others, I'm sure. Do we get reimbursed or any of that? Where we
No.
shouldn't have had to do this in the first place?
Yeah, that's true. No, we don't. They have not. Dean, I don't believe there's been any payment to your department. And the fines actually go to the state.
They go to
There
the
is-
school.
to the
Yeah, it goes to
school.
the school. Yeah. So,
So there's nothing,
right, so I'm just, I guess maybe that,
So, the fines are punitive for a reason.
yeah.
And obviously there was a reason in this particular case. Like the one earlier in the, agenda, I'm reluctant to do anything until there's a final inspection, frankly. I think, like the other one, I would recommend putting on hold the due date, so there's no extra penalties for not paying, but I'd like to make a decision when the whole thing's done, because
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's, I would take a harder approach, I would actually deny it, and I'll give you my reasons, but I don't disagree with perhaps delaying it, but here's my reasoning for denying it outright.
Okay, no.
Because of the circumstances. So, when I looked at this thing, if you think about it, step back and give some context to it. So, we had an agreed upon plan that, even from the first day when they started moving dirt, was a violation. And let's take a look at the impact or the effect of what happened. So they destabilized that slope, that was clear. We don't know the long-term implications of the erosion. Even with the final inspection, we may not know that, but the slope was destabilized. The second thing was they endangered the road. And we don't know the long-term effects of that either. Yeah, they repaired the road, but that was significant to undermine that road like that we may have to chase with dollars in the future. We just don't know, but it's another unknown. The third thing is the inconvenience of the people of Tryon Bay. A road that was supposed to be closed for a couple days in order to get in there to do that, or a week, I think it was a week, ended up being what, 3 weeks total closure?
It was.
All right, so there's that.
Which was incredibly quick to get that done, but I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying.
And then there's the fourth thing, which is something we all take for granted. The amount of effort from the town staff and everybody to get it, the amount of work hours to be involved to settle this thing is pretty significant. So to me, a $20,000 fine just to cover that initial concern and liability, I think is minimal. And so I would lean towards disproving it.
I'm ready to put forward the motion to deny the request
Okay.
appeal if anybody doesn't have any other comment.
I was feeling that, I made my statement
Yeah.
in the idea that maybe we would, but if we're not, then it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
And I think they should be put on notice that if anything fails, they can have more fines.
I mean, they're not done, right?
They're not even done yet.
So, yeah, we're not even finished, so, yeah.
And this is another, and if I just may, this is an example of just because you can doesn't always mean you should.
Do we
And
hear a
that's
motion
fine.
then?
So, yes, present, please, to deny the request appeal notice of violation NOV-2024016.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Then, the board unanimously, denies the appeal notice of violation NOV -2041016. That is, thank you, Mike. You're very
Thank you very
fortunate
much.
That's the last item
Yes,
on our
ma'am.
agenda, or you'd be up here again, I guess.
Are you going to close session too?
We have to, yeah, closed session, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's closed, Barbara. We won't talk about it.
Yeah, we just can't speak to it, yes. Yeah, we just can't speak to it, so.
Okay.
Make a motion in accordance with GS.
Just one
Oh,
second.
I'm
I'm just gonna let you all know, we are gonna go into closed session now. That is the last item on the agenda, so I don't want you to sit here with bated breath waiting for us to come back and have more to our show here. So thank you all very much for coming. We are gonna take a 5-minute.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
please
all right.
exit through the back door this evening. Thank you so much.
We gotta go in
Thank
closed
you
session.
very much.
Make a
Madam
Your
motion.
motion, please.
Make a motion in accordance with GS 143-318.11A3 for attorney-client privilege or legal claims.
Bryant, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're now in closed session. Do y'all wanna take a 5-minute break? That's all, or just go in there?
Yeah, 5 minutes. The reason why he does it by the year is it happens, and there's very few tours, because I do them all, right? So what happens is, like, we only have 3 left. So